Especially not this time of year. Catch up.
I'm catching a bit parks.
Oh, okay. Oh, Lanyard. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. Hi, Ryan. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the WAPC meeting of the 15th of November 2025. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and is available for viewing via the Commission's website or via YouTube. This afternoon's meeting of the Commission is to determine a significant development application under Part 17 of the Planning and Development Act, and Commission members may refer to devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the lands of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation and pay our respects to Elders past and present. In relation to apologies and leave of absence, we do have an apology this afternoon from Commissioner Adair, but all other commissioners are in attendance, with Commissioners Hall, Shears and Sandry online today, so welcome to you online. And disclosures of interest, I have a disclosure from Commissioner Hall in relation to this item, which is the proposed aged care facility at lot 551 Champion Road and 136 Brady Road in Lesmurdie. That Commissioner Hall has declared a perceived impartiality interest as a long-term and current playing member of the Lesmurdie Mazanoid Cricket Club, which is based in the suburb of Lesmurdie. Members, are there any other disclosures of interest? No, thank you very much. And any disclosures of representation on the item? No, thank you very much. And can all members please indicate that they've received an agenda ahead of today's meeting? Commissioner Shears and Commissioner Hall, can you hear me? Commissioner Shears and Commissioner Hall, hello. Yes. Can you just, thank you. Can you just indicate that you've received and considered the agenda? Thank you very much, Commissioner Shears. I can't get Commissioner Hall though, to perhaps hear us. Commissioner Hall, are you receiving? No. Just pause while we sort out this issue. So we do need our commissioners to be able to hear us.
Can anyone hear me?
So yes. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Ryan? No. Commissioner Hall, we can't see you receiving us, but we've got you on the phone now. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. And if you could just
I can hear you.
If you could just indicate that you have considered the agenda ahead of this afternoon's meeting, thank you very much. Deputations and presentations today. We do have one verbal deputation, and we have also received 4 written deputations, which are in the agenda package in front of you. So, Sam, I'll hand over to you to introduce our deputy today.
Thank you. As the Chair's indicated, we have one deputation on item 4.1 on the Part 17 development application for the proposed aged care facility at lot 551 Champion Road and lot 136 Brady Road, Lesmurdie. We've Nick Hiding, Mark Aronson, Mike Scott and Dinu Kikani. If you'd like to join us at the table. Thank you. You have been allocated 9 minutes to present to the WA Planning Commission. This will be managed by a time which will appear on the screen when you count down the allocated time. We will also shortly share the PowerPoint presentation. Advise if you wish to advance the slides this afternoon.
Afternoon. Thank you for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, commissioners and panel members. My name is Nick Hitting from Hitting Urban Planning for Burswood Care Proprietary Limited in the matter of the Part 17 significant development application for a proposed 81-bed residential aged care facility, 20 Champion Road in Lesmurdie. This project is proposed by the Roshana Care Group, together with the owning entity Burswood Care Proprietary Limited, operate under the Roshana Group of companies. It also owns and operates the existing Sunshine Park residential aged care facility on subject land at 10 Brady Road in Lesmurdie, which is part of this application as well. We've been working closely with the department, along with March Architects and the wider project team over the past couple of years on this project, and we're very pleased to see it come before the Commission today with a recommendation for approval. The project is supported by the City of Kalamunda, and the team has been working closely with the City with all technical and operational matters being supported. It's also a high level of support from the local community with a very positive response received through public advertising. There's a recommendation for approval in front of you this afternoon, which we're broadly supportive of. As set out in my submission, we'd ask that the Commission review and consider condition 14, which deals with complying with the National Construction Code, and specifically looking at on-site shelter or stay-in-place shelter requirements. In a general sense, it's our view that conditioning this requirement as a planning condition, it's not necessary because it's something that needs to occur under separate legislation subsequent to the development approval phase. There's a detailed design stage that occurs after this, and with the certifier and the fire engineer, they'll have to come up with solutions to comply with the National Construction Code. So specifically requiring us to comply with the National Construction Code and go into specifics such as a shelter or stay-in-place shelter, in our view, is not necessary at this stage because the certifier and the fire engineer will look at the various solutions that are available and will do that process subsequent to this development approval. Mike Scott will touch on some other bushfire aspects in his presentation, but just in a general sense, we believe that condition 14 in its entirety, 14 ABC, is not necessary to specifically condition. Otherwise, we're very happy with the balance of conditions. They're very reasonable and appropriate, and we look forward to the Planning Commission's favourable consideration of this matter today. Thank you very much.
Okay. So hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Mark Aronson from March Architects, and I'm speaking in support of the application. So we've been working closely with the department and wider project team for the last 2 years and are pleased to see it come before the WAPC with a recommendation for approval. Our vision is simple but powerful, to build within nature, creating a place where community and country stay connected and where care feels like home. The design has been shaped by 3 key ideas: the site, the community, and the level of care. So the site itself is an extraordinary piece of Lesmurdie bushland, and we've worked hard to ensure that the building belongs to it, not on it. We've limited the footprint to just 39% of the site, and we achieved that by stacking resident areas, following the natural landform and locating parking and the bulk of services on the already degraded areas next door at Sunshine Park. So the building sits quietly amongst the trees, with gabled roof forms drawn from the local vernacular, neutral materials and native plants in the adjacent courtyard. Retained and protected existing vegetation wherever possible, including potential black cockatoo nesting sites in collaboration with Emerge Associates and Arborite, the landscape architect, and the Secondly, the community and design approach has been collaborative throughout, especially with local residents. The facility departs from the traditional institutional model. We've created within the building small neighbourhoods, each one of about 20 rooms each, and arrange them around a central courtyard. Every neighbourhood has its own domestic kitchen, living area, and garden, giving residents a sense of ownership and familiarity. There's a staff cafe, and an efficient environment generally for giving care. Visitors are welcomed into a calm, legible setting, easy to navigate, inviting to return to, with native gardens, public cafe, bush trails, and also amenity for playgrounds for kids and intergenerational opportunities for care. So these neighbourhoods embody the National Aged Care Design Principles, which are to enable the person, cultivate a home, access the outdoors, and connect with community. The third point is sustainability and connection to country. So we've achieved this as a driving principle through orientation, natural light, screening of the facades, thermally efficient glazing materials, on-site solar generation, water-sensitive native landscaping, and public artwork integrated into the facade and entry area via form with public artists. We're also incorporating dementia-friendly walking trail through the retained bushland, which is a sensory pathway allowing residents and visitors to engage with the sights, smells, and sounds of country in a safe and restorative way. So in summary, the proposal is about dignity, connection, and care. Facility that respects its landscape, strengthens its community, and redefines what aged care can be in Western Australia. So we believe 20 Champion Road is a model for how to build with nature, not against it, and we look forward to working to bring this project to life. Thank you.
I'm Mike Scott from Bushfire Prone Planning. Next slide. The bushfire management plan was actually lodged prior the bushfire components or implementation of the NCC. And then those bushfire components were withdrawn from the NCC, and then later on the Building and Energy WA Industry Bulletin was introduced in April 2025, which kicked in your NCC again. The original BMP was a bushfire management plan, was lodged in November 2023, and the second version was October 2024, and then minor amendments April 2025 and July 2025. So there is no reference to the NCC in the bushfire management plan at that stage. However, the NCC specification 43 now requires a 10 kilowatt buffer, and this is 60 metres from the building to classifiable vegetation. This cannot be achieved within the property. The property, as back then it was required, was to BAL 29 and with a 21 metre separation distance from a managed bushland. So it was compliant, and this was communicated in meetings with the local government as well on this in site meetings. The vegetation separation, we're down to next slide. Just briefly, there is major bushland around from the site, but it's over 500 metres from large tracts of land that can hold the landscape scale fire. And in between, there's built-out residential areas which act as shielding and ember trapping. And there'll be no direct flame contact to the building. The fire behaviour would be, you'd expect less than 12 kilowatts, so it equates to about 12.5. So it has a low radiant heat flux. All right, next slide. As you can see there on the map, you can see the subject site, the large tracts of bushfire prone area to the west, to the south, and to the east, to the right. Then you can see some other lighter reserves just to the east of the proposed development and to the north. The area to the north is actually a community area. So the green hashed area or green striped area is actually Crown land. That's why it's right, and it has buildings on it. The area to the north, where it has Lesmurdie written on, is actually nearly all managed because there's a community hall, community centre and oval except for there. So there's very little bush left standing there. Next slide. There is an adjoining reserve, which we'll show on the following slide in a minute. It's a very small tract of land adjoining the subject site, and there is some unmanaged vegetation left on the subject site as well. So the reserve is very small. It will not hold an intense fire or a landscape fire. It is impossible. It's only a small tract of land. The modelling for AS3959, where all the modelling for your BAL comes from, for your structural standards, is worked on landscape scale fire and high intensity. Whether this is a small tract of bushland and it cannot physically be a high intensity fire equal to AS3959, so it will not have the impact. And that includes your ember tack, and before in a forest fire you get preheating, then the fire front for about 2.5 minutes, then you've got your residual heat of your heavy fuels burning. So for about an hour you have heat impact on that building. In this reserve, it's so small, you will not have that. It's impossible. So you won't have half an hour ember tack before the fire hits. It'll be within minutes or an hour. So you can't have a crown fire. Next slide. If you look to the east, which is to the right, that's a small reserve there. That's the only unmanaged bush around that can impact the property, and it'll only be ember attack, and the ember attack will be low to moderate. It cannot exceed that. Next slide. So in summary, the structure is built to BAL 29. There'll be no flame contact. The radiant heat, which will be 29 kilowatts, it'll be lot less than 29 kilowatts, and 10 kilowatts equals BAL 29. And the primary focus is on ember protection, which is from BAL 12.5 onwards. So you need ember protection. So it more than caters for the threat. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation today, Nick, Mark and Mike. We do appreciate the information that you've provided. We'll now see if there are any questions from commissioners. Any questions? Thank you so much, Commissioner Heron.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. In terms of the bushfire management, which is clearly a significant point, and I will confess not being completely over all of the requirements, hence why we have expert opinions such as yourselves. The relationship in terms of the age and nature of the residents, because obviously there is, of course, the burn factor may be consistent, but in terms of the sensitivity in relation to the ability to remove oneself, or the sensitivity in terms of smoke and other components, is obviously far greater. Do the BAL assessments have regard for that? And are you comfortable that in that context that sufficient due regard has been to that issue?
I'm very comfortable with the BAL as it is. Otherwise, we actually step the BAL up. So I'm very comfortable with that. In the A3959, your BAL assessment or your construction materials from the BAL assessment, it does not cover wind and it does not cover smoke. So there should be operational procedures in place where you close your windows and doors. And you've got, nowadays, you don't have evaporative air conditioning, they're recycled or refrigerated air conditioning, which won't draw the smoke in. It's a small reserve. There'll only be a limited time that smoke will be around, and it will not produce much smoke.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I may, following on from that, just the being familiar with that particular locality, where obviously even when you talk about the residential areas around there, they do tend to be on larger lots. There tends to be highly vegetated. We're also dealing with slopes, which can obviously affect fire spread. Has that been part of the considerations that you've given to this as well?
Absolutely. You have to assess it out to 150 metres. My background is actually DEVAS. I developed and managed the risk mitigation branch. All about what we're doing here. I'm also a bushfire behaviour analyst. I actually check out about around these sites. I actually look out about 5 kilometres to see what can impact. The significant vegetation you have out there more than 500 metres, there's nothing, it's not like it's a scarp. There's nothing really that significant there that you have what's called a pyroconvective event, like the 2J fires, not 2J, the Boral fires where it went through and you couldn't stop it. It won't. And the Yarloop fires, you cannot get that there. It's just not the area for it. So we do consider that, yes.
Thank you. And final question is, I'm not quite sure to whom, but in terms of, I understand that the site will be amalgamated and it will be managed as a single facility. I just wanted to understand about that integration component, and from both an operational management as well as, I suppose, from not just fire management, but from an operational perspective, is there sufficient comfort that it will be suitably integrated?
I can maybe talk a little on that. So the starting point from a design point of view was to assess what infrastructure was already on the former Baptist Care site and to try and use those areas wherever possible for things like car parking or ATU, so effluent treatment. There was an existing septic tank, quite a large area where we have worked closely with the department to get a state-of-the-art treatment unit in the same location and to screen it, to remove, I think the previous one was smelling, that's now gone. We've used the areas where previously refuse was accommodated, and we have just drop-off servicing area in the existing road, which we've just improved. So really all the kind of back of house stuff, we've created a much more tightly designed car parking and servicing area that hasn't really spread into the amenity spaces of next door. But what that has done is meant that we've got more of a lifestyle design approach on the other side. It's allowed us to keep the nature and to work with that. And also one of the things that Deep has asked is, for example, if you're bringing in trucks or cars here and a fire brigade, we've actually created another access through the site so that we can have, it's well put together in terms of egress, not upsetting too many residents in the street, because we don't have changes of shifts for staff. We actually have managed to open up the access quite a lot. So there's a lot of thought about it. I think in terms of the amalgamation, Dino, maybe you can speak with more.
My name is Dino Ekanayaka. I am representing the Roshan Care Group. So we have considered the existing RV and the aged care and this new 81 design. We have got a very good experience. This one with, few years ago, we did a very similar project in Carmel, the 80-bed facility. It's been now fully occupied, and we will have the same sort of synergy and the management plan for this facility as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Hall. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Nick, you mentioned around the conditions. Can you just clarify which conditions you are asking for them to be reconsidered?
Thank you for the question. Condition 14, which deals with complying with the NCC and specifically talking about on-site shelter management and maintenance. So condition 14 ABC in its entirety.
Thank you. And so what would be the impact if the condition was, if it was approved with that condition? What would be the impact on the proposal and to the development?
It's a good question. If the process subsequently after this approval is granted, that we go through the detailed design and certification with the fire engineer, and they come up with a different solution to comply with the NCC, and it's got conditions dealing with on-site shelters. If there is a different outcome through that detailed design stage, we'd have to seek these conditions to be modified or amended or deleted later. We feel it's best to leave all of that till later and have those certifiers and fire engineers come up with a solution. Then they have to do it anyway. We'd rather let them do their job after this and not be tied to specific conditions in 14B and C.
May I
Add
help?
to that, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's a new condition that hasn't had a lot of track record history. So when we spoke to our certifier and fire engineer in respect of this, they believe that there's a lot of work to be done in terms of mechanical design, in terms of window openings, how the building is actually goes together, the materials. For example, we have at the moment concrete block walls. All of these things are very good in the event of fire. Also, sprinklers, the building's fully sprinkled. We have mitigated any possible spread of fire in the landscape by having reticulation within the landscape and selected species which are helpful to mitigate fires. So the certifier has advised that there's actually quite a lot of work to do to understand the best approach to this, and obviously that's part of design development. If we, so to speak, jump the gun and give an outcome, that may mean it's not the most efficient, or it's a blanket condition that doesn't really respect the process and the value that the certifier, the engineer, or the team will put to this solution.
Great, thank you. And if I could just ask one last question on it. So it does appear to be more related to the next phase of the process, in the development process, and the building side of things. And I'm just wondering if you've seen that before, accredited with Engineers Australia, and whether or not that's actually a planning condition or relevant to the planning stage in the process, of the overall process.
That was the basis of my submission, that it's a condition that deals with a subsequent process under separate legislation. And I think it's been longly held in case law that it shouldn't be a planning condition dealing with matters under separate legislation and under separate codes. So that was the basis in a general sense in my submission.
Yeah, great. Thanks for confirming that. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you, and thank you for the deputation. Through the chair, just so I can clearly understand, I think in the report it mentions that you'll be looking at potentially a portion of the building being, I guess, compliant with the NCC requirements for temporary shelter purposes. Is that still the intent moving forward? And in your view, will that 100% meet the NCC requirements regarding the shelter in place due to the vulnerability of the land use?
Again, that was mooted with the certifier and the fire engineer, and it is likely that they will approach it from that direction, but they were strongly advising that not to preempt a solution. So their view was it has to meet the NCC. We have to form an approach which is either satisfied or alternative solution which meets the safety concerns of the NCC, but that they would not be able to identify the specific path at this time.
Just through the chair, just on page 28 of the report, if I can have some commentary from the applicant. It says the applicant in further email correspondence received on 5 November 2025 has outlined detailed advice from their fire engineer confirming that the detailed design will include a compartment to the front of the building to satisfy the relevant NCC requirements for temporary shelter purposes. I just want to confirm that was the contents of the email and if that is still the intent moving forward.
Thank you for the question. That was, that summary of the email is correct. Just subsequently to that, because this was a very late condition that came in, we were scrambling with the fire engineer to come up with responses. And so first of all, it should be a matter dealt with later. It's a National Construction Code issue. We have to deal with that subsequent to this anyway. One solution is to put a shelter in place at the front of the building, and that was spoken about and thrown around by the project team as a solution to complying. It may not be the only solution. They might come up with something else that might be a little bit different. So at the time of that email, that was correct. The position now is that they want to look at that more holistically and come up with a solution that works for everybody, because there's, if you propose something of that nature, there's other considerations from the architect, from other services and all those sorts of things. All that has to be done anyway through the detailed design phase after this. So that was the reason for saying, let's not be too specific about it. Let the experts do their job after this and come up with a solution that works.
Chair, just one other brief question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Thank you. And thank you for that response. Appreciate it. So separating out the NCC element, Nick, from a planning perspective, do you see that in the, for example, the bushfire guidelines, it does speak to on-site shelter for vulnerable land uses where, you know, maybe there's not an acceptable solution regarding exiting of the site? So from that perspective, would it fall within the planning realm?
Yeah, I accept that, but maybe Mike's got a better, more expanding response to that.
Yeah, that's usually it's for tourism. If tourism is a long way in, long way out, sort of thing, with you know, surrounded by bush, you'll put a shelter in place. Now they're only constructed to what generally to a BAL 29 if you've got BAL 12.5. So they can adjust with their adjustments to meet its needs. And I really don't think it's, for me, it's not the right application for this aged care unit. To me, it's got to be the NCC and step away from tourism guidelines for you know, limited people there that mobile.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you. Thanks for the deputation. A number of the written deputations that we've received today were from local residents nearby concerned with impacts on local amenities. So traffic concerns, height of the building, clearing of vegetation. And there was some concerns raised too around the consultation process. Could you just respond in terms of how the application has evolved over time, taking into account the comments you've received from the community and the process of engagement that you went through?
Okay, thank you. So we conducted 2 separate workshops in the village hall. I believe that was in Lesmere or Gooseberry.
Before we put the application.
Yeah, prior to actually lodging the application. We had designs for a building which is actually tighter footprint, and it was 3 stories. There was, I think I mentioned previously, car park locations. It was quite a heated discussion with local residents, and we took a decision to reduce the number of units. I think it was 100.
Yeah, it was originally designed to 123-story building, and then 1 entrance and the same exit as well. So then we changed that to the next consultation. We had a meeting with them, and then I think that meeting went very well.
It went very well, because what they said, I think they were quite hostile again, but we presented a lower building. Every item that they had raised, like I mentioned things like lights, what about changes of shift if you're finishing at 11 o'clock? We had a response that like car parking on the street. We removed that, we put it into the Baptist Care site. And the end of that meeting, was very positive, that a lot of residents actually said, you've actually shown a lot of integrity to listening to us, which I think was the issue, that they hadn't listened, or that they didn't think that we would listen, and we did. So that was prior to lodgement, and that information was then lodged to WAPC. Yeah.
And then formal consultation went out, obviously through the process. So, and there was a good response through that. I think there was a general understanding of residents in the area that this nice bushland was probably government owned and was there to stay. They probably didn't realise it was privately owned and could be developed, even though it's a reserve under the scheme. It can be developed for a community purpose use. So there's probably some of that as well that into it. So I think the team's done a very good job in responding to the very specific local commentary, and yeah, I think the results have been very good.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Is that where the there seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding about the tree retention piece, because that's come through from the deputations that they've mentioned 8 trees being removed as opposed to 16 on the plans. Is that because that was that earlier iteration of the development where you had a smaller footprint?
That's correct. So we originally had 3 design reviews, and the building was tighter. There were some iterations, it changed shape a little bit. We also went through the arborist and we identified the key trees. So some of the trees that were very important to keep were potential nesting sites. So there actually are no black cockatoos, but there are potentials. There are also a number of trees which are either not native or not in good condition. And we probably tried very hard to retain all trees. And to be honest, the feedback from the DRP was maybe some of these are not needed to be so close to the building, that sort of thing. And so there were some amendments made, especially access. The DFIS requirements pushed quite large turning circles for the trucks, and they wanted in and out. So as we went through, there were some casualties, I guess, but
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Because I think that's just, you know, obviously you've had a first consultation on an earlier design and things have changed through the process, so that's understood. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Thank you very much for your deputation today. Thank you. Members, as mentioned, we have those 4 written deputations. Some of those issues have been done already. We'll now go to the presentation of key issues by the department, and we're joined by Lee Parker and also Lisa Saraceni. Thank you for joining us today. Do you wish to make any comment? Are you happy to go to questions? Perhaps I would know if you are going to go to questions, I'd just ask for some comment in relation to condition 14.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. An assessment using the guiding principles for the consideration of proposals submitted through the Parkland pathway has been detailed in our report. And in summary, simple consideration has been given to those matters. However, I would like to touch on some of the elements in response to matters raised in submissions and the deputations written today. I do note that the Commission has been provided with the full content of the submissions, so the Commission is not relying solely on the summary as outlined in the Department's report and contained within attachment 9 in the report in the published agenda. The concerns and issues raised in submissions and as further commented on in the written deputations have been comprehensively considered and have either been assessed as acceptable or capable of being addressed through the imposition of recommended conditions as contained in the office recommendation. In particular, some of these concerns relate to noise, light and traffic impacts during construction, but also post-construction during operations of the expanded aged care facility, and environmental concerns related to the retention and protection of trees on site and the appropriate identification and potential handling and relocation of threatened fauna species which have the potential to occur on the site. These matters have been considered as part of the assessment with advice received from relevant state agencies and the city, and have resulted in the recommendation before the Commission today, noting in particular recommended conditions 8, 9, 10 and 18 in relation to management of construction activities, tree protection, fauna management, noise and lighting respectively. With respect to bushfire matters and recommended condition 14, and touching on the applicant's deputation today, As we are aware, the proposal is located within a bushfire prone area and is subject to State Planning Policy 3.7 and the associated planning for bushfire guidelines, which provide a framework to support planning decision making for such proposals. The department's assessment of this aspect of the proposal, which is classified as a vulnerable land use, has relied upon the information contained in the applicant's submitted bushfire management plan and addendum, as well as further information supplied via email correspondence from their fire engineer, as outlined in the officer report on pages 59 to 60 of the published agenda. These do indicate that a small number of residents and support staff may not be able to evacuate in the event of a bushfire emergency, and so will need to temporarily shelter on site, triggering the requirement for the proposal to satisfy relevantly applicable bushfire construction standards relevant to that portion of the development where on-site shelter may occur. As already touched upon, the applicant's prior email correspondence from their fire engineer had provided SDAU with a level of certainty that these measures were being actively considered as part of the detailed design, and that a portion of the front of the building was to include a compartment designed to satisfy relevant NCC requirements for temporary shelter purposes. However, the applicant's deputation comments today would seem to contrast with this approach and create some level of uncertainty as to if and how the Commission is to be satisfied as the decision maker that the proposal has adequately addressed SPPs 3.7 and the guidelines. Section 8.2 of the bushfire guidelines clearly established that proposals for vulnerable land uses where temporary shelter in place may occur should be subject to a development approval condition or conditions requiring certification of the development's design and construction in accordance with relevant National Construction Code or Building Code of Australia requirements, as well as annual maintenance and auditing of the facility to ensure it is maintained and occupied to support its shelter function. It is noted that the guidelines establish that such conditions should be imposed even where the applicant has provided technical advice during the development application process, demonstrating that any on-site shelter has been designed and or located on the site to comply with relevant bushfire construction standards. As outlined in the officer report, recommended condition 14 is considered appropriate and to have a valid planning purpose and is consistent with the intent and provisions of the bushfire guidelines and SPP 3.7 and is supported by DFES. The condition does not specify or dictate a particular performance solution to achieve compliance and provides scope to that and as yet to be determined performance solution in respect to construction standards for that portion of the building where on-site shelter may occur in the event of a bushfire emergency. Overall, the department considers the proposal to be of an acceptable use, scale and location, having regard to its surrounding context and alignment with the community purpose reservation of Lot 551 under the city's local planning scheme. The city is supportive of the proposal and the majority of concerns raised by agencies have been addressed by the applicant or are considered capable of being addressed through conditions as recommended by the department, and the proposal is therefore recommended for conditional approval as outlined in the report. That concludes my comments. However, open to any questions you may have.
Thanks, Lee. You've covered off the bushfire question very well there. Members, are there any further questions? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Lakey, and then Commissioner Heron, and then Commissioner Bennett.
Chair. Just going back to condition 14 and the proponents questioning the fact that it's referring to the NCC and this is planning. I know you've just gone through it, but I just want to get it absolutely clear in my head because that's a different view to what you've just put forward. I just get a bit more clarity that in terms of the proponent in this saying, paraphrasing, that it is preempting an outcome from that might come out from the NCC, and the NCC is going to cover this and require it anyway. Just comment specifically about that.
Yes, through the chair, the NCC provisions relevant to on-site shelters and the bushfire construction standards, there is an acceptable solution which was referred to, which means the building has to be sited and located such that it doesn't receive a radiant heat flux of more than 10 kilowatts per square metre. That's not able to be achieved, as already outlined in the applicant's deputation, which means a performance solution has to be achieved. One of the NCC requirements don't stipulate a particular performance solution, but it does capture what we refer to as the ABCD, Australian Building Codes Board Refuge Handbook requirements, as one way of satisfying that or providing a performance solution. It's not to say that the fire engineer couldn't come up with another performance-based solution if it could be locally demonstrated. So it's the department's view that part 14A does not prevent scope to consider various performance solutions to meet the NCC requirement.
If I may, Chair, I guess that's I was wondering that, does this preempt, so if they come up through with an alternative solution which is acceptable to the NCC, that particularly condition 14C, where it refers specifically to on-site shelter, that wouldn't contravene that condition?
Through the chair, no, it's the department's or SDO's view that would not contravene the condition. We're relying on the fact that the application documents state that on-site shelter shall occur. So a portion of the building that's somewhere will serve as a shelter. Because 14A will determine to what construction standard or performance solution that shelter should be constructed to. And then parts B and C of that condition just ask that a maintenance plan be prepared and approved, and then that there's ongoing auditing and checking that is occurring, so it can serve its shelter function.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Heron.
Thank you, through the chair. Much similar questioning, but slightly different. I similarly held the view that, or understood that, there needs to be somewhere to shelter. That's a given. The methodology is more the question, and that the condition does not limit that. If hypothetically there were to be another solution which didn't involve that, which, as I say, I can't imagine, would there be any implications in terms of the delivery of the project? So do you feel that the way that the condition is worded, that there is sufficient flexibility that if those intents are achieved in an appropriate way, that that condition could still be cleared?
Through the chair, yes, I do believe that would be the case.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you. So it's condition 14 as well. So if the commission was of a mind to not include condition 14, as requested by the applicant, what's the risk to the department in the application and the ability to meet the requirements of SPP 3.7?
Through the chair, thanks for the question. I suppose that there are risk implications for the subject proposal, but also in terms of application of the guidelines and SPP 3.7 more generally. As noted in the deputations, the current version of the guidelines has only been recently endorsed. And so we would have to, the Commission would have to consider whether not imposing a condition consistent with the guidelines was appropriate in the context, and whether there was suitable justification to warrant that occurring in this instance. In terms of the subject proposal, it's the department's view that the Commission should be satisfied as the planning decision maker that the intent and objectives of SPP 3.7 have been met. At the moment, it's not clear how and if they are able to meet those objectives and the intents and purposes of state planning policy.
Commissioner Hall.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Lee. Just can you, I've gone through SPP 3.7 a few times, and I'm just struggling to find where it actually requires on-site sheltering. So I don't think it's a given that it's required. And if it is, can you please advise exactly where it says it's required?
Yeah, through the chair, thank you for the question. It's not that it's required, it's that the applicant's proposal states that not all members or not all residents of the facility may be able to evacuate, in which case their only measure they can perform is to shelter on site. So it's a function of the proposal, not a requirement stipulated by the guidelines.
Thank you. And so is that sheltering, could that include the building that's proposed as part of this application and not a separate shelter?
Through the chair, yes, it has been outlined that the fire engineer was considering a compartment within the building that would satisfy that shelter purpose on site.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sandry.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Just referring to the bushfire guidelines, the planning ones, just under 8.2, Lee, you had mentioned it when you were speaking. It does state in terms of the application of those conditions, it's where an on-site shelter is proposed. And I just wanted absolute clarity. And I know the email has come through, but in terms of the documentation that's in front of us, is there anywhere that's explicit where it states that they are going to provide on-site shelter? Just because when I went through and I could have missed it, but when I was going through the bushfire management plan, it says it's a consideration, but I didn't see that it was explicit.
Through the chair, yes, the bushfire management plan as submitted states that not all residents may be able to evacuate. The application or the development plans themselves do not stipulate where that sheltering may occur, which obviously creates a level of uncertainty as to how or if they can meet the requirements of the guidelines and have the recommended conditions. So as already touched upon, it's reliant upon the applicant's advice that not everyone can evacuate the site. And so they will need to shelter in place. And that is unequivocally stated in the bushfire management plan. I don't have the page number in front of me, but I can provide that. No,
that's clear. It was just more if they had, so it's clear that they've said like the first principle is to evacuate, and then due to it being a vulnerable land use, there may be persons who are unable to evacuate. It's just that it hasn't clearly stated in the documentation where that on-site sheltering will occur. Is it across the development? Is it in a specific place? Is it separate? Where does that exist? The other question I had is, in terms of assessment under the policy, the element in which if you don't satisfy the vehicle access requirements, then it triggers consideration of on-site shelter. Under the bushfire guidelines, were they consistent with, I guess, the deemed to comply for revisions, or was there an objective assessment undertaken?
Through the chair, DFES did provide commentary in relation to the ability for the site to be evacuated in the event of a bushfire, and whether the car parking areas in particular had adequate turning radio to facilitate that evacuation and also access by emergency vehicles. The addendum and further advice from the bushfire consultant confirmed that was able to be met, those requirements were able to be met to DFES's satisfaction.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Commissioner Hall, do you have your hand up?
Yes, if I may, Chair.
Yep.
So, Lee, just wondering if this is in a suburb of Perth, Lesmurdie. It is got some bush and slope, around generally. But if this was a suburb, say closer to the coast or in the city, would there be evacuation requirements or plans for an aged care premises similar to this that we would ordinarily require, or is it only because we're concerned that there's a bushfire risk?
Through the chair, I believe as part of any aged care or other communal residential accommodation, there would very likely be emergency evacuation procedures in place as a matter of course. Whether that's required under other legislation, there may be requirements in relation to that. However, in this case, because it is located in an identified bushfire foreign area, it is subject to SPP 3.7, and there is a requirement for a bushfire emergency management plan to be provided, and that has been provided as part of the documentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Sandry.
Sorry, one other question. Just was there any consideration around any other uses or buildings in proximity, even the existing development, where there could be shelter in place that didn't warrant it specifically as part of this development?
Through the chair, there was no proposed shelter building, on-site shelter location detailed in the application documents. The only confirmation or indication we had was from that emailed advice from the fire engineer that was passed on by the applicant about a compartment at the front of the building.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Bennett.
Sorry, one more question. 14A, the condition requires the certification that the proposal meets the National Construction Code requirements in this regard. Is that necessary? That would be a standard requirement anyway? They would have to meet the NCC requirements?
Through the chair, that is a standard or routine requirement that would be required. But part of the purpose of the condition is to satisfy the Commission as decision maker that the intent and objectives of FCP 3.7 have been met. The submission of a presumably certified building permit application to the local government would not require that.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, we're ready to deal with the item. Yes, okay, so we're dealing with the item now. It's the Part 17 development application for a proposed aged care facility at lot 551 Champion Road and lot 136 Brady Road in Lesmurdie. If I could please have a mover and seconder. Moved by Commissioner Hall, seconded by Commissioner Bennett. Go ahead, Commissioner Hall, if you wish to make a comment.
I just think the report has shown the proposal's been thoroughly assessed. There's been a number of submissions that have been addressed thoughtfully and carefully. The proposal is subject to a number of conditions, and yeah, look, I support the recommendation of the officers. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett.
I support the comments made by Commissioner Hall, and just also add that it's been clear through the process that's been delivered through the report and the deputation by the applicants that there's been a thorough process of design, consideration and sensitivity around the environment, and the consideration of the local context and amenity as well. And on that basis, I also support the application.
Any further comments? Commissioner Lasky?
I just want to commend the architect and the team. I think it's a really good outcome. And I think you've worked very hard to actually deliver a good outcome, very respectful for the environment. I think you listened to the community. From what I can tell, you've got from 3 stories and more units. You've aimed for retention of trees, and I've looked at the plans in detail, and I think it's well fitting for that. And I think the conditions are well set out. We had a good discussion on condition 14, but I'm very happy to support the motion as it currently is.
Any further comments? Any dissent? Commissioner Hall, you wish to make a comment?
Yeah, am I able to move an amendment?
Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to move an amendment to delete condition 14 from the consideration.
Is there a seconder for the amendment? No seconder, so the amendment lapses. Is there any further amendments or discussion? Is there any dissent? Thank you. The item is carried. Members, just in terms of item 5, State Administrative Tribunal applications, the renewable energy facility at Flat Rocks remains in the set, and we also have the Part 17 development application for the vanadium processing facility. Members, is there any urgent or other business that you wish to raise at this meeting? No, thank you very much. Well, thank you all for your comments today, and thank you very much to Lee and Lisa for the report, fleshing out all of the issues, and to the deputies for today and providing the opportunity for us to ask questions. And I'll close the meeting at 3:01 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.